Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Click to Close podcast. My name is Travis Halverson, and I am joined, this is new, I am joined by the one and only Victor.
Victor
Say your last name.
Ayala.
Ayala. My Siri does not know that. So when I say call Victor, it's like, calling Victor, Ayala. I was like, oh my God, that's not it. That is not how you say his name. But great. Super happy to have you here. We're just pumped that we were able to go to dinner with you last night. Great time at dinner.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Bistro 90, great place. Shout out to them.
100%.
I already saved myself a piece of Japanese A5 Wagyu for Monday. Locked and loaded.
Nice.
Super hyped. But yeah, man, super excited to have you here because I've known you for a really long time.
Yeah,
But I don't think I really know you.
Yeah,
I know you, but I don't like know you.
you don't know my
I don't
story,
know your
my
story.
journey.
I don't know your journey.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's time that you share with the world your journey and your story, and because all the people that listen to this podcast probably met you, so we have that going for us.
Yeah,
Like 10
yeah.
people
Probably a lot of people that are watching this now have had a chance to
meet you.
meet me
Hyped.
through Zoom.
Much more
I'm excited
handsome
to
in
be here.
person. I hope you guys understand that. Zoom just doesn't do him justice. So just so you guys understand, when you meet him in person, you're like, holy shit, that's Victor?
Yeah, especially the beard is impactful in real life.
It is, man. I always try to get my beard like that, but I would never, ever, ever happen. Yeah, it's really brutal. Never going back to a beard. Can't do it. But we'll keep the mullet as long as we can until Catherine gets sick of it. So we're doing good so far.
All right.
But awesome. Super pumped. Tell us how you got to where you are today.
Wow. So you want to start all the way from
Yes.
from the beginning?
Birth. When were you born? No, let's start when you... To be fair, though, you guys would not expect to know his age. And I'm not going to age him on this. Ageism? Is that hating? Is that ageism?
I mean, I'm fine with it, but yeah, I mean, when I told you my age, you asked me for my ID.
Bro, it's a lie. Chris, how old do you think he is? He said 34. How old are you?
45.
45. Wild. Wild. So now you guys all have to go to YouTube. And when you go to the YouTube channel, you'll see doesn't look anything like he's 45. When he said he had how old's your oldest?
20.
He has a 20-year-old child. I was like, what? It's so weird. So great times. Cool. So tell us everything. You don't have to start when you were born, since I already just did that. But
Well, I guess I do want to mention, shout out that I'm from New York. So I was born and raised in New York.
from New York,
Yeah. So definitely want to
cocky
start there.
Django dreams are made of. That's that song, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
But fast forward my journey after being born in New York. By the age of 9, my parents decided to move back to Puerto Rico. So I have an older sister. She's 10 years older than me. So by then she was already graduated from high school, ready to go to college. So I obviously had no choice, and I had to go with my parents back to Puerto Rico. And my sister then decided to stay, pursue her career and college degree and all that stuff.
Nice.
So I grew up in Puerto Rico after the age of 9 all the way until I graduated high school. And I was back and forth between New York and PR for a little bit. My first career after high school was a barber. I was a barber.
Nice.
So my parents and most of my family is very entrepreneurial. So I had that entrepreneurial gene in me
Nice.
very early on. So my parents owned businesses, and they owned. So I guess that's where my real estate journey really started, because my parents, they owned commercial property and residential rental spaces for residential rental spaces.
Yep.
So not in transactional real estate, but property management. I used to help my parents with all that stuff, and people, painting. A lot of the maintenance stuff is the stuff that I used to do. Like if somebody moved out, I would go in, paint a room, change furniture and things like that. So helping out with that kind of stuff. So property management was kind of like my first, experience in real estate overall.
Dude, property management freaks me out. There's no way.
So because my parents, they owned that commercial property and residential property rentals. So and when I graduated high school, my parents just gave me access to one of their commercial spots, and I started a barbershop there.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I was like 18 years old. I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
I
so
love
I was
that.
just winging it. But it was a great experience.
Shaving a lot of heads.
Shaving a lot of heads, cutting hair. It was great. And
That's amazing.
And I've always had a heart of a teacher. So I've always liked training, coaching, and mentoring.
Nice.
So aside from obviously attending my own clients, I recruited. I brought in different barbers. At one point, I had 10 different chairs, and I had them all rented out.
God, that's awesome.
And then and this was a very young age. Again, I was just doing whatever I could the best way I could, know. But I didn't know how to operate a business. So as you can imagine, I just blew through a lot of money.
Oh.
I wasn't very good.
19-year-old Victor was
Yeah.
running out 10 chairs. And he's just like, you know what?
Yeah, it was just a mess, right? I was just doing my thing, making good amount of money, but still not really responsible with it. Yeah, I was too young at that point. But anyway, that was great. I did that for like 10 years. I mean, this is my journey to real estate is quite unique, I guess you can say. So even though I've always been very entrepreneurial, at one point I decided to work for the post office, which is like the antithesis of entrepreneurship, like going from entrepreneur business owner to a government job in a union.
Just 9 to 5.
Yeah. But however, while I was in Puerto Rico, I was working at the post office, but I still had the barbershop, right?
Sweet.
My wife would help me with the day-to-day administrative part of it. So it was like the best of both worlds, if you want to look at it that way. So because I had like all the benefits from the government job, but at the same time, I was still able to scratch my entrepreneurial itch by still operating the business to some extent. So I mentioned obviously the post office because it has it played a huge role in me moving to Dallas and getting to Dallas because after some time, I mean, we were married. I think we had our first child, and by the time he was like 2 years old, we wanted to move back to the States. I really wanted to come back to the States, and we tried to move to New York, and my wife, she's from Puerto Rico, and she's been born and raised there all her life, and New York was just too much for her.
I believe
the weather and the fast-paced life, it was too much for her to handle. So
fast-paced and snow just does not go together, man.
Yeah,
or just cold. Fast-paced and cold, just nope, not it, not it.
Yeah. So
Miami, that would be a different animal.
So we tried Florida as well,
Did you?
But for me, Florida was like Puerto Rico 2.0.
Yeah, as I say, it's not a big change going from Puerto Rico to Florida.
Yeah, it wasn't too much of it, so I wanted something different. So anyway, while I was working with the post office, I saw that there was an opportunity to transfer to Dallas. And I have no ties to Dallas, like no family, no nothing.
Love that.
I searched on all my Facebook friends to see if I had anyone in Dallas. One person came up, a good friend of mine. We went to high school together, and after he graduated from high school, he went off to the military, and then he settled in Dallas.
Nice.
And I reached out to him and was like, "Hey, have this opportunity to go out there, transfer to Dallas for the post office." And he said, "Sure, come out." I remember we did a trip. I had to respond and accept the offer to start in March of 2011. And it was in January that we went out, looked around. My wife wasn't too excited about it, but she was willing to give it a try. And I was like, okay, let's just do this. And we took the position, and fast forward to today, it's like we love it there. Like,
nice.
She's absolutely in love with where we live now. It's we've settled down. We have roots. We have community. We have family. We have not family. It's like family. The friends that we've made have become our family because we haven't had a chance yet to bring anyone from PR or anything like that to move over here. But still, we've created a good community around us. So with the post office then. I sold my business. I sold the barbershop when I moved from Puerto Rico to Dallas, and at that point I was just doing just working at the post office.
Excuse me.
What ended up happening was I started getting very frustrated and all of a sudden I started having that entrepreneurial itch again that I wanted to do something because all my life I've always had like a side hustle. I've always been doing 2 or 3 things business wise. Yep. And during those first few years in the post office, I was just like doing nothing but the post office. So I started to kind of like strategize and figure out, okay, what's my next move here? So what ended up happening is while I was starting to deliver mail in this area of North Dallas called Highland Park and Preston Hollow, what ended up happening
You just kept seeing movers. You just kept seeing people's cards saying, buy my house.
No. What ended up happening is that there was a lot of gentrification happening in that area. So I would be delivering mail in this house, and like 2 days later, the house would be completely knocked down.
Jeez.
And then 2 or 3 months later, it was like this mansion built in its spot. Because it was a neighborhood where it's like
Pretty dope.
these 2-bedroom, 1-bath houses, like 1,000 square feet on this huge lot built in the 1950s, right? So very outdated homes, but then really big lots. So, and prime area of Dallas. So that's what started happening there. So I started observing that. I was like, And I had already started reading, as a mailman, you're just out there by yourself, listening to audiobooks, podcasts, and things like that. And real estate was already on my radar at that point. All right. So
everybody should know real estate, in my opinion. Should at least understand it at a base level.
For sure. So, real estate was already on my radar at that point. What ended up happening, this is the craziest thing ever, right? All of a sudden, these 2 random investors approached me, and they wanted me to give them a list of distressed homes.
As a mailman.
Right? So they approached me and they asked, hey, do you know any distressed properties, any vacant properties? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Like off the top of my head, I gave him a list of like 60 different properties that I knew that fit the criteria that they gave me. So I handed them over the list, and they were like, their minds were blown, like, because now I understand.
Yeah.
That I was a lead source.
Oh my God. I got taken advantage of.
Now I understand. Right?
Son of a gun.
At that point, pretty much one conversation, 60 leads. I mean, dude, that's
you are the cheapest lead source, man. Look at you. That is great. So
now I understand. And at that point, I didn't know, but I ended up turning into a bird dog for them, right?
That's so sick.
So
you're like, this house is trash. They haven't picked up their mail in 7 months.
Yeah, or it's vacant or whatever the case may be.
Were they paying you for this?
So they agreed to give me like a kickback, if they close the deal out of anything that any of the contacts or leads that I gave them. And I didn't think, I was like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. But lo and behold, like 2-3 months later, they came back and was like, hey, here's your, we promised. I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah, you're like, what?
And that right there was like, okay, I have something here. That's where I realized, okay, this information that I have in my head and this ability to find properties like this that fit this criteria, there's people that find value in this. So I was like, okay, there's something here. And that's when I started to really take, real estate serious and decided, I don't remember the exact timeline there, but shortly after that, as I finally got my license, I decided to get my real estate license, and I started working with investors. That was my first kind of like introduction into real estate. So I joined a team and a brokerage that focused on real estate investors and started doing wholesale deals. So this is, I'm already been out of the post office for several years now, but I was such a, driven and hustler that I remember I was doing an open house once at for an investor, one of his flips after we acquired the property, renovated. Now we were on the process of dispositioning the property, and I was hosting an open house, and this guy came through and met him there, and we started talking, and he ended up saying, he told me his address where he lived. I remembered like, okay, I knew the address. It's on my route. It's one of the routes that I delivered mail in. So I started talking. I kept on following up with him. So his house was one of these like smaller homes, and he was trying to sell it and get into something bigger and nicer. So I set it up. The only time that he had available was like sometime that I was like working hours.
Yeah.
So my buddies, my partners, my wholesale partners, they came. I parked my postal truck in a Target.
Nice.
Changed inside the truck. They picked me up. We went to the house, did the deal, and then they dropped me off back to pick up my post office so I can.
God, you were hustling.
finish my route.
That is great.
So that was. So I started doing deals. I was working full time at the post office and pretty much full time real estate, knocking on doors on my days off, on the weekends. It was a lot of hard work in the very beginning to try to get my real estate business up and going. Because at that point, I knew that I wasn't going to retire from the post office. I couldn't sustain that. I had to go back into like business and entrepreneurship and doing, things that I really, really felt passionate about.
Yeah, for sure.
And I felt that were very fulfilling to me, right? So I knew that I wasn't going to retire from the post office. so it got to a point where obviously working full time in the post office and also doing real estate after work and on the weekends, long term that was not sustainable. The wife started saying, hey, we have to figure something out here. And I was, it got to a point where I was very frustrated, and I was like trying to figure out the best way to move. And transition into full-time real estate. What ended up happening is that I came across this opportunity to join a small little company out there called Zillow. When they started buying homes a few years ago, where they started doing their iBuyer program.
Oh, the iBuyer program.
The iBuyer program. So when they launched in the Dallas market, I was part of the team that launched Zillow offers there. So I was able to capture that opportunity, and that was my way out.
Yeah.
From the post office. So I left the post office and I went full time into real estate. Not in the exact same way that I thought I would do it, but it was the right opportunity. And now, how they say hindsight is 2020. When I look back, and this is probably, we're not going to stop here, but the story gets really interesting in part 2 now, because it all comes back to when I look at what I started doing in Zillow and the people and the teams and the companies and the real estate CEOs and leaders that I became aware of during my times at Zillow, it's crazy that now we're pretty much doing business with them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's
like all these people that I just knew of. As many of them, for example, people that we're currently doing business with now were Zillow broker partners.
Oh yeah, big Zillow,
for the iBuyer program. And I just became aware of those people, but now I actually
interact with them on a daily basis.
So for me, that just blows my mind.
Trust me, it hits me all the time too. So I get it.
Yeah. So that's kind of like my journey in real estate. That's how I made it from barber, entrepreneur, post office.
Can you say this? Can you say the slogan?
What slogan?
The mailman slogan.
Oh, dude.
Please tell me you know it. Do they make you recite it?
No, they don't.
Come on.
No.
You know it?
I don't know it.
Isn't it like through rain or shine?
Rain or shine.
Sleet or snow. We will deliver the
gloom of night. There's something about gloom of night in there. Something like that.
I just picture Victor getting sworn in and having to say
the point is that yes, no matter what, rain, sleet, or snow, the mail has to be delivered. 100%.
Oh my God, I love that.
Nothing can stop.
God, you were like the original Kevin Costner, man. That is great. What a good movie.
Yeah.
God, that's good.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean,
where you came and where you're at, you just looking back on it, you're just like, wow, what a journne. What a journey it's been.
It's been a journey, not how I expected it to be. So one huge lesson that I learned over the years, right, in this whole transition is the importance of believing. You have to believe in yourself. You have to 100% believe that you're able to do something, because otherwise you're not going to take any sort of action if you don't believe. That's like that's the foundation there. Obviously, you have to work hard.
Absolutely,
you have to work hard, and put in the hours, put in the effort, and just work hard. Another thing that I learned throughout that whole journey was the importance of adapting. Why? Because I remember when I was in that process that I wanted to move from the post office into full-time real estate, I was the type of person that likes to plan, right? And I remember I would just make these very detailed, perfect plans.
Oh boy!
Right? And what would ended up happening was that all of a sudden something unexpected would happen.
Yeah.
That's life.
It's life.
That's life, right? So, but I ended up getting very frustrated whenever something would hinder my perfect plan.
Yep.
And then instead of adapting, I would just get very frustrated and just scratch this whole thing. Let's start over.
Yep.
And let me just write up my new perfect plan. And the importance of what I learned over time is that, hey, what's that? Mike Tyson quote, or whoever said it, like,
man.
everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, or something like that.
If that's not a quote, that needs to be a quote.
Yeah. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So it's like you can plan, but you need to also understand that life is going to happen.
Yep.
Unexpected things are going to happen.
Yep.
So while I was in that process, like, for example, my wife got sick for some time, so we had to go through that whole process.
Yeah, for sure.
Our second child at one point went after that. I created another perfect plan, and then all of a sudden we had our second child was born premature, right? And then that wasn't in my plan.
Wasn't in your plan.
That wasn't in my plan.
Exactly.
So that started becoming frustrating for me. And I would just, instead of like just adapting and moving forward, I just felt like every time I would just go back.
Yeah.
I had to go back to square one and start over again. So adapting was a huge lesson for me.
Yeah.
That whatever life is gonna throw at you, you just need to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily completely scratch your plan. You just have to adapt to it.
For sure.
And understand and anticipate that things are going to happen. Things that you can't expect are just going to happen. And then the other thing that I've learned throughout this whole journey is this idea of patience. Patience is so important, especially if you aspire to something bigger and greater than you.
Yeah.
And another thing is the importance of positioning yourself in the right place with the right people around you. And then that's where that patience comes in, because then the right time will eventually come. But you have to be in the right place and around the right people and prepared. Make sure that even if you don't see the opportunity there yet, you have to be ready for when the opportunity shows up and shows itself.
Yep.
So that patience aspect has been a huge part of my journey of understanding that, hey, this is not, I'm here for this is a long game for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm 45 years old, bro. I'm telling you, I feel like I'm just getting started.
We are just.
I mean, I want to live to 100. So I'm not even at 50%. I'm not even halfway through my journey, right? So for me, I feel like I'm just getting started, and for me, it's such a long game that, I mean, patience for me has been a huge asset for me.
Good.
To understand that, hey, this is not about the short-term gain or the short-term, win.
It's not a sprint, baby.
It's not a sprint. It's a freaking marathon. That's what it's all about. 100%.
Man, I love you. God, I'm glad. If you guys obviously listen to this episode, you guys got to know Victor more, for those of you that have already met him. So thank you so much for telling us your journey.
100%.
We love that. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you were a mailman. Glad you got that mail delivered. That is great. Do you still keep in touch with your OG partners that you did wholesaling with and stuff?
Oh yeah,
Really?
yeah, for sure, 100%. I mean, still to this day, we do a deal every once in a while.
That's amazing. That is awesome. Well, cool, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on. As always,
Thank you.
Happy to have you on board. If you guys don't know Victor, find him on all the social media stuff. So find him. Love you all. Bye.